Hi, everyone. So we're just coming up to 3 minutes past 3. I see people are still arriving, but so I'm gonna kick off now. So good afternoon. My name is Zoe Ledwith, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all to a discussion on the topic of energy sharing, which is a practice that enables consumers to collectively self-consume locally produced renewable energy close to real time. This webinar is brought to you by the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub, or CEAH, which is an initiative of the European Commission. This is the second webinar in our Chatting on Citizen Energy series, where we aim to take an in-depth look at the variety of activities that make up citizen energy initiatives, from production of renewable energy to flexible demand response and everything in between. So first, I'm just going to take us through some housekeeping rules quickly. I hope you can see my slides change. So just to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and we will add the recording of the presentations to the CEAH website after the webinar, except for the Q&A session. So you can, feel free to ask your questions during the Q&A because that bit won't go online. The attendee microphones are muted, but for the Q&A session, please submit your questions using the Q&A box, which you'll see on the bottom of your screen. We're very keen to hear of your own experiences of energy sharing in your country, particularly to share good practices and any challenges that you're facing. So please don't be shy to contribute to the discussion. We've lots of people registered from all over Europe and from many different types of organizations, from regulators, think tanks, NGOs, and energy communities to academics and who I assume are curious individuals. So it's great to see, and we hope that it's going to lead to a very lively discussion. So before we get started into the program for today, I wanted to take a very quick recap introduction to the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub, or CEAH as we call it, for those who may be joining us for the first time. So CEAH began in January of this year, and it's a 3-year initiative that will promote a citizen-centered energy transition, empowering citizens to drive Europe's clean energy transformation. We're hoping that CEAH will provide the tools, resources, and support for energy initiatives, including some of them listed here on the left. And we're aiming to support a range of actors listed here on the right, including individual households, SMEs, municipalities, energy communities, and then smaller businesses and small NGOs. Some of our activities in CEAH include capacity building and provision of technical assistance. More on that at the end of the webinar. We also aim to facilitate networking and peer-to-peer exchanges via webinars such as this one. And some of our key output and deliverables will include an interactive map of citizen energy initiatives from all over the EU, guidance documents to help citizens navigate the becoming active in the energy transition, and case studies and many more things. So now on to today's webinar. So to discuss the topic of energy sharing, we will be joined by some expert speakers, Ashiel Hanneset from the European Commission's Directorate General on Energy, Francisco Puente from Escan Energy Consulting in Madrid, and Josep Rosé Galart from the Manresa Illumina Business Energy Community in Catalonia. So today's program will last about 90 minutes. We will have presentations from each of our 3 speakers, followed by plenty of time for questions and answers with the audience. So as I mentioned before, but in case you just joined us, you find a Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to write your questions in here throughout the webinar, and we'll do our best to get to all of the questions during the Q&A session. Anything we don't answer in the webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with afterwards. So now we move to our first speaker, Ashiel Hanneset, who is Policy Officer at DG Ener. The floor is yours, Ashiel.
Yes, thank you very much, Zoe, for an excellent introduction, and good afternoon to all of you. I'm very much looking forward to kicking off this Chatting Citizen Energy session on energy sharing. Of course, very curious to hear from you and learn from your experience as well. So without further ado, let's dive in. Energy sharing in EU law. Next slide, please. So the case for energy sharing, of course, to give you a bit of a background, this was already part of the EU acquis, but of course it became more prominent during the energy crisis. Now, what we see as well more systematically is that, of course, with increased uptake of distributed energy generation by individual consumers or collectives thereof, there is an increased amount of electricity that is being put on the network as well. And this injected electricity is not necessarily always self-consumed. As you can see here, there is a huge difference between what is generated and what is actually consumed in general, but also then as a consequence self-consumed during the day when actually solar energy is most available. And energy sharing, of course, can draw in additional consumption profiles, more consumers to self-consume from a single solar PV installation, for example, on the rooftop, or solar PV park that is owned by a community. So the idea is to balance as much as possible the injected electricity with the consumption, also bringing back ultimately the consequent imbalance costs that are increasingly occurring with the increased integration of distributed energy. I should emphasize this. This is really the increase of imbalance cost is due to the integration of renewables. It is not typical to energy sharing. That would be the same thing as saying that it's typical for a power purchase agreement by an industrial actor that has a solar PV parks or a wind turbine within its premise and injects that electricity. So next slide, please. So energy sharing, I already mentioned, it was already part of the EU acquis, part of the 2019 Electricity Market Directive, which was quite a fundamental recast. And this is where we really shifted from the EU side, at least, from having this more passive role for consumers. When you're at the end of the wire, you're choosing your offer once or twice in your lifetime. To find a supplier that you trust, and then never think about the energy that comes out of your socket ever again until there is, of course, a blackout or a brownout. We shifted that mindset towards activating also consumers, because the Commission, when it proposed related legislation, saw that there was an appetite on the ground as well, with certain types of individuals, communities that were quite adamant in pushing the energy transition forward for various reasons: local autonomy, mitigating climate change, or stabilizing prices. Now, two models were enabled back then: energy sharing within a multi-apartment building, and energy sharing within the energy community, either a renewable or a citizen energy community, at least how it's defined at EU level. For the multi-apartment building, the energy sharing was structured around a group of final customers, loosely defined. So what they share is the building complex, of course, but otherwise they don't necessarily need a legal entity, as opposed to the energy communities, which are more strictly regulated because they are part of the social economy. So that's also reflected in the participation requirements and governance principles, but also the mission purpose of these entities. And here, yeah, you see a very nice human windmill, with all credits, of course, to Rescoop for letting us use this picture. Next slide, please. Then energy sharing, fast forward, the energy crisis struck in the aftermath of COVID-19, 2021, and went on to 2023, 2024. And the Commission was asked to come up with solutions for ensuring that consumers have access to affordable energy. Of course, a lot of the high prices were stemming from the market, and the market coupling to the natural gas prices. And the Commission decided not to decouple the markets, but it decided to find mechanisms to decouple the impact of the natural gas prices on the electricity bill of consumers. And one way of doing that for larger actors is, of course, the power purchase agreement, which stands outside of the market, the wholesale market. And another way to do that for smaller consumers, including SMEs, but also households, of course, is through energy sharing. And the Commission proposed to further regulate this activity. And the Parliament and the Council also ultimately found an agreement. And today it is part of the directive that I have referenced here with the relevant code 2024-1711. The right to energy sharing can be found in Article 15A. It is defined as self-consumption of off-site generated or stored electricity. So it's electricity that goes through the network, through the public network. It is not on-site, it is off-site. And it's within the same bidding zone or a more limited geographical area. This is something that member states can decide on. It's an EU right, so you can count on it as a citizen, let's say, that you have the right to share. And it's granted to final customers that take up an active role in the energy system, in the electricity system, as well as energy communities, which already stemmed, of course, from the previous legislation. You can differentiate two options. One is based on collective investments, which is essentially what you do through an energy community. You pull together the investments of the members to invest in an installation, and that installation that is owned by the community, you can then use for the purpose of sharing the self-generated electricity with members. Option 2 is based on agreements, energy sharing agreements, as we call them, between active customers and other final customers. Can take a variety of forms. It can even be a rental or a leasing contract, if you like. But most occurring are agreements where there is an exchange of this energy against a price that is negotiated between final customers. Now, how does this work in practice? Of course, because we are all final customers. And the reason why we're called final customers is because we have a relationship with our supplier. And our supplier is, of course, our main source where we get our electricity, and that does not change with energy sharing. That does not change when you self-consume electricity within your premises either. You still have the majority of your supply coming from your supplier. Of course, what we have enabled is a technical trick. It's a technical implementation where you register the shared electricity on an accounting point. And that metered value can then be deducted from your total metered consumption. So what the supplier will bill you at the end of the day is whatever you have consumed in total minus the shared electricity with you. So it cannot bill you for the shared electricity. This is something that occurs between final customers. Here below you see Peter and Janet. They decided to share electricity with each other, and it illustrates what I just described. So you have, I'm not sure actually whether it's super visible, so my apologies for that, but I'll try to take you through it. But as you can see, there is a total consumption by Janet of 6 kilowatt hours. 5 kilowatt hours comes from the installation that is owned by Peter and that is sharing the electricity with her. And 1 kilowatt hour of energy is then still supplied by the supplier. So at the end of the day, for this 1 kilowatt hour, if that would be the only thing that she still consumes outside of what is shared, would be the basis for what she's billed for with her supplier. Transposition deadline is the 17th of July 2026, so we're not there yet. And the Commission is, of course, standing ready to help member states as much as possible to make this really a reality for citizens on the ground, so that they can also use this right and not only legally invoke it. Next slide, please. I included an example. I know there's an example from Spain coming as well, which I'm quite curious about, and I hope I can still witness. Otherwise, I will be sure to look back. These are some numbers. How many projects that are currently active? So 191. These are the where the projects are on the right hand side. You see where the projects are located. And you see actually a huge boom growth in 2024, which is not a coincidence, because we were really we're talking about being in the midst of the energy crisis, or right in the aftermath of it. So a lot of investment decisions were also made during that time when retail prices were really high. In the meantime, they stabilized. They're still higher than pre-crisis levels, but they have stabilized, which gives you an indication that energy sharing might now be more competitive with retail markets. But it gives you, to some extent, still that assurance that you have that stable access to affordable energy, at least to meet your demand to some extent. What I should add here as well is how important it will be to start integrated also distributed energy resources such as storage and smart charging into energy sharing, just to optimize that level of self-consumption. And if you cannot shift your demand, of course, you can make sure that you can store your electricity so you can use it when you're actually in need of it. Next slide. This is the Sunsut project. I really recommend you to have a look. We from the Commission side, we went there as well, actually in person. I stood on that roof. It's a beautiful view, but more than that, it's quite an inspirational project, because it involves social housing units, and it showed how energy sharing can also contribute to lowering the cost, even in a competitive manner with the social tariff. Next slide, please. Outlook, sneak peek, if you like, the Citizens Energy Package. This is something that was announced as part of the Affordable Energy Action Plan. All of this is indicative. This is not written in stone. We are developing the package as we speak. Hence, I need to leave as well soon. But it's all for the greater good. We are working on lowering energy bills, empowering citizens, citizen participation, and delivering a just transition. And here you see more or less how that is divided then, the different aspects of the energy market and system. Under lower energy bills, we have self-consumption, and under empowering citizens, we have the energy communities, of course. The indicative timing of adoption is 2026, and the open public consultation has already closed. So that's all from my side. I hope it was informative to you, and I wish you a very fruitful discussion and exchange for the remainder of this webinar. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Achille. I wonder, are you able to stay with us for a few minutes if anybody has a question? Yes? Okay, I would encourage anyone who wants to ask Achille a question to put it in the Q&A box now, because you will have to leave us in a few minutes. But maybe I'll just ask you, Achille, as you said, there's a transposition deadline coming up in 2026, so we have a lot of member states working steadily, I think, on planning how they're going to implement this. And I think we have some regulators on the webinar as well who are looking into that. I was wondering, can you tell us about any kind of existing guidance from the Commission or upcoming help that we can expect for member states looking to implement this?
Yes, certainly. There is a legal basis, even in Article 15A, that requires the Commission to provide guidance to ensure a standardized approach on energy sharing. And this is something that is very much in the pipeline, that is being worked on, and that we hope to also produce in 26 to help member states and as a consequence also regulators to implement this provision. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, yeah, we look forward to that. I was wondering, could you speak a little bit to the crossover with consumer rights as well and energy sharing? And you touched on it briefly, but also, yeah, the rights that as a citizen you still maintain even when you're participating in energy sharing.
Yeah, it's quite an innovative field to explore because energy sharing is consumer to consumer, which is generally not covered by EU consumer protection law. Um, but of course, the way we have regulated energy sharing today allows for third parties to come in. We call them third party energy sharing organizers. Now, these organizers can have a variety of functions. Uh, Two of them includes operating systems, even owning those systems that are used under the control, of course, of final customers for energy sharing. And the second is to be responsible for administration that relates to energy sharing. So the contracting, the billing. So in this regard, it introduces a new relationship between this energy sharing organizer and the final customer that will need to be protected as well when contracting related services. And for this, we can rely on general consumer protection law. In addition, Article 15A does provide for specific protections as well. So for billing and contracting, the co-legislator has decided to apply mutatis mutandis the protections that are also in place for a final customer in relation to their supplier. So transparent billing, frequent billing, but also transparent terms and conditions within the agreement with the energy sharing organizers to provide services. But this is very much a field that will need to be continuously monitored to make sure that we don't immediately maybe crack down on innovation as the Commission is sometimes accused of. But at the same time that we also not undermine the trust of consumer in this model and make sure that they can really benefit from this without having to take too many risks. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Ashil. We have one question which I will ask you just before you have to go. It's from Daniela, who asks, can we understand how the invoicing of the energy shared between Peter and Janet in your slide and the extra energy cost that Janet has to pay from the network is done? Who issues the invoice, the energy supplier? Question mark. I'll maybe just go back a slide so we can see it again.
Yeah, this is a very good question. It depends. That's the answer. This is not regulated by EU law. So in some member states, it will be the system operator because this was already historically regulated as such when the system operator was responsible for collecting the network tariffs. In other member states, it will be the supplier. If the supplier is responsible for that, of course, that is an administrative service that supplier is providing. So it should also be able to recover the costs that are associated with that and thus be able to bill that also to their final customer engaged in energy sharing. And lastly, the other option that I see is, and which also occurs in some member states, is the energy sharing organizer is responsible for that. Now, keep in mind, I mostly talked about external third-party energy sharing organizers, so more commercial parties that can help facilitate this and give you a package service, if you like. But it can also be an internal energy sharing organizer. And the most clear-cut example of that is an energy community. If you organize yourself through an energy community, then the energy community can be responsible for collecting those network tariffs in proportion to the shared electricity.
Great. Okay, I think that's clear. Thank you. I hope that answered the question that was asked. Ashil, we don't have any further questions for you, so thank you very much for your time. And we'll move on now to the next presentation. One moment till I get the slides back on track. Here we go. So now we move to our second speaker, who is Francisco Puente. Francisco is the managing director of Escan Energy Consulting, which is a firm specializing in energy policy, market research, energy efficiency, sustainable energy, power and heat generation, and smart grids. Francisco is a regular speaker at leading international events such as European Utility Week, ENLIT, World Sustainable Energy Days, and other energy-related conferences worldwide. Previously, he served as an associate professor at Rey Juan Carlos University, and he held positions at Endesa, Enel, and Técnicas Reunidas. Apologies for my poor Spanish. Okay, Francisco, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much. It was very good Spanish.
Thanks.
It's not easy. Thank you, and also very interesting to hear Achille all the explanations about these new possibilities, because in fact this is something that will be very useful for also for the Spanish situation. Okay, I would like to include my presentation of today under the European City Facility, which is a platform or a program of the European Commission supporting some development of investment concepts for municipalities and public authorities. And I will speak today about the collective self-consumption in Spain. And the reason, I guess, for this presentation is that in every country, there is no one homogeneous way to share the electricity or to share the electricity collectively. There are different possibilities. Also, as Asiel mentioned, this depends a lot on the national regulations. So each country has its own national regulation. The electric market is always a very complex system. It has a lot of different regulations which are being updated every, I would say, month almost in every country. And then also it's very interesting to understand the difference between self-consumption or collective self-consumption and energy communities. Sometimes this is mixed, but not always is the same thing. So I hope I can also with my other colleagues in this presentations, like Joseph, that is speaking afterwards, we can explain this and show how it works in our country. Next, please. Well, basically, I think you all know what is collective self-consumption, but I will go very shortly into this because it's changing also. So collective self-consumption means that there is a number of people, like we see in the image, a number of people in principle, in a specific local area. Let's leave it at the moment like this, in a local area, so not anywhere, but in a local area, can be within a district, within a municipality, depends on the regulation. And these people can consume and often produce jointly this electricity, frequently from renewable energies. And now also including sometimes storage or electricity chargers or other issues. So we are changing this collective self-consumption and production from renewables, from electricity, to share this within a group of consumers locally in a local place, to a more wide use of the energy in a collective way. It's collective self-consumption, but I would say with extras now, with some additional features. Okay, this is what is happening in this moment. Next, please. Okay, physically, we want to see this in an image. How can we do this in Spain? I'm including here a couple of examples. These examples come from a technical guide from our National Energy Agency, from IDAE. Because we have this guide, you can find it in the internet, IDAE technical guideline for collective self-consumption. And this guide explains how we can install, for example, in the image of the left, you see a building with a with a solar panel, solar PV system in the roof of this building. And we see that we need always in this collective self-consumption, we need a counter. So we need a meter that measures the amount of electricity produced. This is needed in Spain. When you want to do a collective self-consumption, you need this meter in the production. Why? Because in Spain, you share the electricity based on a percentage of the production. So in this moment, we are changing regulation now, but in this moment, the only way you can share electricity is to produce, measure the electricity, and then explain which percentage of that production is given to each consumer. So for each production, you give a percentage to a number of consumers. For example, in this building, we have a meter, And there are two families of this building that are consuming this part of this electricity. As you can see, there are two black meters in two homes, and these are consuming part of this electricity. But also this part of that electricity produced in this building goes to this one family home on the left of the image, and also to two other neighbors in another building, for example. So this is shared to 5 different families. And for example, it could be 20% of the production to each one of the 5 black meters. So we measure, calculate 20%, and this goes into the 5 different homes. That's one possibility with only one production. When we go to more complex collective self-consumption, that could be, for example, more an energy community, you can see in the right image, we have a sports center, polideportivo, sports center, sorry, in Spanish. We also have one family home, and we also have a building of flats. In this case, we have 3 different productions of 3 different sets of panels or of PV systems. And as you can see, each of the productions has their own meter. You can see the meter of the, well, the official meter is the green one. So this is the official, let's say official meter, the technical official meter. And each one has a meter, and they can share any percentage to any one of these different consumers which are in the same low voltage grid. So we can somehow play with these different productions and consumptions with different systems, each one with one meter, and each one giving a percentage to each one of the homes or the buildings. Okay, but we need always meter of production and meters of demand. Next, please. Well, I also wanted to just mention, because maybe you would like to read them afterwards. They're of course in Spanish, but we have Google Translator, which is very good. So you can check the regulation, and all this regulation started in the law 24/2013. So we have a first regulation that starts to mention the collective self-consumption. So it's not so far away. It's only now 12 years ago. So it is something recent. So it's not, there is a lot of experience, a lot of projects. No. This is something quite recent in Spain and in all Europe. In fact, the regulation, because a law is only a law, it's only words, there is no specific regulation for that. Then there is a regulation 2015, which starts to develop this possibility, but in that moment, we have to pay for the grid. So any collective self-consumption has to pay an amount of money for the grid, which means that basically was not very cost effective, because you pay more or less for a small PV installation plus the grid is usually expensive compared to larger installations and the grid. So this is something that limited a lot the collective self-consumption. So we are coming now closer to today, and in 2019, this Royal Decree now starts to regulate the administrative, technical, and economic conditions for self-consumption, including the collective self-consumption. So the regulation is even more recent for, let's say, a more reasonable possibility. And now, by today, we have a draft of a law which is changing to the things that Ashil has just mentioned. So the possibility to, well, first to expand the geographical area where the self-consumption can be open. So now we have 2,000 meters limit, and we are expanding to 5,000 meters. That's one of the things. But also the possibility to exchange only the surplus, for example, not to exchange the production as such, but the surplus of what is surplus of my installation, I can give it to my neighbor, for example, and other features. So as we can see, this also to show the speed, which is quite low, and also the difficulties on to put this in practice is complex. Okay, next, please. Well, just to mention very briefly the modalities of the collective self-consumption, we have basically 3. One is no surplus, which means that this is very specific. Is in one building, you use all the electricity in the building, and there is no surplus to the grid, let's say. So you can share among the neighbors of one building, one same building of flats with, let's say, for example, 20 flats, and you install in the roof and you share it, but you have a limiter in the output of the building, which means that no energy goes out of the building. This is no surplus. And you need to show that you have a limiter for that, a limiter to not to give energy to the grid. Then you have one possibility, which is the one that is usually used by small and medium-sized installations, up to 100 kilowatts. This is also due to the regulation in Spain. If you are below 100 kilowatt net, so approximately 115 kilowatt peak, then you can use the simplified compensation. What does it mean? That means that you don't need a retailer or a supplier of electricity to get money for the surplus. In practice, that means that if I have an installation and have a collective self-consumption, then I can use the electricity among the neighbors. But if there's some surplus, I get some money from that surplus. So I put it into the grid, and automatically the same supplier or retailer I already have in my invoicing, in my bill, he gives me some money for the surplus. And this is done automatically. So it's, let's say, simple. Because if we are in the third category, which is obligatory for over 100 kilowatts, then you need a retailer or supplier of electricity to buy your surplus and sell it to somebody else. So then it makes a lot of more complexity, because that means that you start to be a producer of electricity, and that means you are like a company. So then you have to pay taxes and you have to develop a lot of things. Okay, requirements to participate. In Spain at the moment, for collective self-consumption, you need to be within a radius of 2 kilometers. So you have an installation, and in a linear way, you can measure 2,000 meters, and anyone in the 2,000 meters around of that installation can be part of the collective self-consumption of that installation, of that PV system. Sorry, this is a summary. If you are in a PV system in a roof of a building, specifically for PV systems in roof of a building or industrial land or pergola. So only in these cases you have 2 kilometers. If you have any other renewable or any other situation, it's only 500 meters at the moment. And the proposal is to extend it to 5 kilometers. This is now what is being discussed. And also, there is an agreement, is a private agreement among the different members of this installation, of this collective installation, that you have to explain what amount of percentage of the production each one will receive. So, for example, if we are the three of us, Zoe, Francisco, and Josep, that we are here now, and sorry, 4, and Julia, maybe we can say, okay, 25% each one. Okay, then easy. We sign an agreement, 25% of the energy produced goes to each one of us in our homes. But you can do any kind of mix. You can do any percentage, and more and more, you can also do it for every hour of the day. So you can do a percentage for every hour of the day. So you can do 8,760% splits of energy, one for each hour of the day, to share this electricity. When is this useful? For example, if I am not some days of the week, or I am not in some moment using the electricity. For example, I'm not using in weekends because I'm never in this building in the weekends. But for example, Josep is. So I give 100% to Joseph in that moment, and maybe he gives you 100% in another moment. So we can share according to the real demand. And this is good. I think this is a positive thing in our regulation. Okay. What else? Possibility of simplified compensation. I already mentioned this possibility of the under 100 kilowatts. Okay, next, please. Yeah, these are some comments that we found from people, from municipalities, at the end of the day, from the potential members or potential promoters of energy communities. I thought it was interesting to mention this because this is very much linked to the collective self-consumption limitations. So, for example, one of them is they think it is very complicated, and usually municipalities and people have lack of experience when they need to develop a collective self-consumption. So, of course, we recommend to get advice from experts, and there are some information points. Sometimes they're free in municipalities or some offices that you can contact, but clearly this is one of the barriers. Also, some people think that, or they don't have a clear picture if this is a benefit for them in the price of the electricity they get from these installations or not. So, clearly, under certain conditions, when you are under 100 kilowatts, you don't need to pay the grid tariff. So every kilowatt hour you produce, you get it. So then it's cheaper in principle, because this can be in an installation of 100 kilowatts, this can be less than 4 cents of euro. So you will never get a price of 4 cents of euro per kilowatt hour in anywhere. So clearly, if you have a good installation and it's not very complex and it's not a very, very small installation, usually it makes sense to develop this collective self-consumption. It takes too long, it's true. I mean, it takes long to develop collective self-consumption, because all this administrative process, all the different administrative issues, and also the own installation, connection point to the grid, etc. But these installations last for 25, 30, 40 years. If it takes 1 or 2 years to develop it all together, all of it, I mean, you already have many, many years of viable installation running. If you want it for the next month, I wouldn't say this is a good solution, but if you want it for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's a very good solution. Same than a home. Usually when you get a home or you are in a home, you are not for 1 month, you are for more. So an installation at the end of the day is part of your home, let's say, or your building. We have no experience. This is something similar to the first question, and also how to finance it. That's another point that usually is a barrier, because there are not usually so many banks or financial institutions that know what is a collective self-consumption or a energy community, and sometimes it's not easy. But okay, everything can be solved. Next, please. I think I have one more. Okay. This is an example of one energy community in Spain that we are supporting, which is Montilla Renewable. This is in the south in Andalusia. So, well, first of all, they didn't have any energy community, so we started from zero, right from zero. People didn't know too much about collective self-consumption or energy communities. The municipality didn't have too much information about this. So we have to, first of all, to inform them, create awareness, and start to promote this, and find these pioneer neighbors or pioneer or promoters, let's say, which is very interesting because these people work for free. So you need to do some work, find some people that work for free, somehow for the community. And this is quite interesting. Okay? Okay, we'll go fast now because I have only, I think, a few seconds or 1 minute. Then, second, electricity exchange and agreements. Also, this is very important because when you start an installation, you need to match the installation with the consumers that are going to be part of that installation. So if you have, let's say, 10 consumers, maybe you need 20 kilowatts peak of installation. If you have 50, maybe you need 100. So this has to be always matched. You cannot say, okay, let's install 50 kilowatts and then let's find people for that. It's better that you find what amount of energy you can produce or what number of installations you can install, find the number of people interested, and then match the best for both figures, let's say. Okay, more or less one family needs from maybe 1 kilowatt peak to 5 kilowatt peak. So this also has to be checked, what amount of electricity they need. So this is something that you need to assess. Then you have the incentives. Of course, in Spain, we had some incentives, Implementa, which is a program from the National Energy Agency, where you can get some money, but also this takes time to prepare documents, a lot of documents, I think 20 documents. It has some specific dates to apply, and also you need specific things to be included in these incentives. Like, for example, this year was mandatory to install batteries, so storage. So again, it's okay, but again, you need effort to get it. And also, we never forget the issue of the 2000 meters. If we have any municipality or neighbors which are longer than the 2000 meters, sometimes we need to, instead of one installation, we need maybe more than one. So each installation makes a circle, and all the circles, you integrate all the people in these circles of these installations, of these 2000 meters. Next, please. So I have last 30 seconds, is okay? Okay. Then
No
this
problem.
is the last slide.
Yeah, thanks. Take your time.
Okay, last slide, okay? This is to show that this is real, that I'm speaking about air. This is the people in the municipality. In the picture of the top, you see the mayor and also the local ministry and some of the pioneers of this local energy community preparing one first installation, which, as I mentioned, is quite difficult to do. Here we did some classes to them to explain very well all about energy communities, about collective self-consumption. So you need a lot of pedagogy. So you need to explain everything many times. And the end is that we have now, we are preparing now to install a first installation for 60 homes. The installation is 75 kilowatt peak and 41 kilowatt hour storage. This is part of one program, one plan in the municipality which will be enlarged, as you can see, along the years. This is like the pilot, let's say, but we are trying to enlarge to at least almost 1 or 1.2 megawatts in the coming years. As you can see in this area of Andalusia has a lot of irradiation, sunshine irradiation. So the paybacks are 5, 6, 7 years payback for an installation without subsidies. This is a payback as such without any subsidy. We never count the subsidies because sometimes they arrive or they don't arrive. So we prefer not to count them. And then also we think about of course, in this case, is part of an energy community where we provide social and environmental benefits. We are not only thinking about the PV installation, we are thinking about creating community. We are creating part of the energy, 10% goes to the municipality for social homes or for their own municipality. We are thinking also about contracting the local companies to install, and also, reduction of the CO2 emissions. And also, this area is very agricultural. They produce a lot of wine in this Montilla area. It's a very famous wine in Andalusia. And there's a commitment not to use the land of the crops for any PV installation if this is negative for the system, for the crops. Now there are agrovoltaics, so maybe it can be included, but it has to be very well assessed. So it's never negative for the crops. And I think this is it from my side. Thank you.
Really interesting. Thanks, Francisco. I think we can all agree that it's important not to hurt the wine crops. So I'm glad that that's taken into consideration by the energy communities in Spain. That's great. Thanks. I also think it's very interesting what you touched upon, the idea of when we involve citizens in the energy transition like this and empower them, they need a lot of access to information as well, because it's an area, a sector that they've traditionally been kind of excluded from in terms of becoming very active participants. So yeah, we need to spend a lot of time, informing people and letting them know about the opportunities. I see some questions coming into the question and answer box, which is great. Please keep adding them. And I see also some hands raised. So we're going to get to all those questions in the Q&A section. But for now, we're going to move on to our final speaker. Giuseppe, I'm sorry, Giuseppe, I'm going to say it wrong again. Giuseppe Rosé Gallart, who is an environmental consultant with 20 years of experience helping companies and organizations become more sustainable. He specializes in energy transition and community energy projects as a way to fight climate change. He is CEO at Oikos and is also a partner at Energia Group for shared energy projects. So Giuseppe is going to tell us about the experience of a group of SMEs who decided to set up a cooperative together. Sorry, there we go, to share their own renewable energy. So the floor is yours, Giuseppe.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here with you and explain one of the projects we are managing. So maybe the main one, it's our pearl, let's say that, no? And very well, because we are quite aligned to Francisco Puente. He explained, congratulations, Francisco, he explained in 15 minutes all the regulation in Spain, so it's quite hard, the self-consumption. And also he exposed an example or energy communities, citizen energy communities. So now I will explain you another type of energy community. It's made just with MS, so a business, not citizens. This is the main difference. So you can go to web. So I will go fast because I have a lot of the slides. So where are we? We are in Manresa, next to Barcelona. And we are, it started with an association of business, so I mean industrial. So there are 4 industrial areas in the city of Manresa. Manresa is 70,000 people city. not very large, and more or less with these 4 industrial areas, we have 600 companies, not big companies. So it's more or less 5,000 workers. This is an important point of view. So these industrial areas, the enterprises of these industrial areas works together in association since, I don't know, 1980. So it means that it's been so long working together. So I would like to emphasize this thing, because sharing energy is like sharing things. So you cannot share if you are not collaborative. So you have no spirit of sharing. Let's say that. No, so you need to work together. So we are not working from zero. Next one, please. So 1990, yes, and next one. And well, when the regulation started to be clear, let's say in 2019, it's when more or less el impuesto al sol, so the sun tax disappeared in Spain and the regulation started. So we started to think about energy, and also the energy costs then were rising a lot. So more or less more than 300 increase of the prices. So all the companies were struggling with energy costs. So we started to try to identify how to improve renewable energies in these industrial areas. So I must say that we were working before with circular economy and other environmental projects. So in 2021, we started. How did we start? With a feasibility study. So can it be possible? So and we saw that we were many imbalances. And so we were companies with high consumption, but with no space. There were companies with a lot of space in the roof, but low consumption. So it means that maybe it's interesting to share, no? And also we made this feasibility study, trying to identify the potential of one of the 4 industrial areas, and we saw that the enterprises could be covered by solar photovoltaic systems, just 1-to-1. So this is a good point. So more or less the balance is okay. We made this study and we started working on that. Okay, and afterwards, the next one, please. We started. Look at that. This is an important point. We started with 10 companies, just a pilot study, but in the end, 1 year and a half afterwards, we decided to create the Comunitat Energètica Empresarial Manresa Illumina. This is this energy community with 36. What does it mean? That the starting number of companies or people that starts one project, maybe it's low, but when it starts, everyone wants to go in. So it can grow a lot. Okay. Well, in the end of 2022, we started this energy community. It's a cooperative, but not cooperative by citizens. It's made by 36 companies. So the companies owns the cooperatives. Okay, and yeah, next one. So what does it mean? This cooperative? I must say, it's a business. We need a business model. So the purpose of the model, of course, it's a business model, but we are not making business. Okay, this is an important point, because if not, we are not an energy community. So this is more the purpose. So we're talking about companies. We are talking about energy savings. We need to save money, economic savings from the first year. This is an important point. So companies that starts working with us, they are just saving since the first day. More important thing, this is voluntary, and they can enter and leave whenever they want. This is an important point, and it's hard to manage. Social economy at the basis of the project. This is a social project, but of course it's made for for enterprises and for business. So this is the interesting point. Yeah, next. This is Manresa, you can see. So all the industrial areas. With the regulation of this cooperative, every company that owns something in these areas can be a partner. But this is what we decided because we agreed, I mean, the owners of the company agreed that, let's say, individuals work different than companies. The objectives are different. So then we are, nowadays, this is not open to individuals or domestic. We are just open to business, okay? And the potential is quite big. Next. This is an important point. We have the status of the energy community. This is the main regulation. We have an internal regulation like that says how it works, the cooperative, and then we have many services. The Annex 1 regulates the shared photovoltaic energy service, the first service that this energy community is offering to their partners. An important point here is just, well, this is so democratic, no? So one member, one vote. This is it. It doesn't mean that a big company has more power, no. So the big company is the same that is just the little one. That is an important thing because it's not used to be like that in enterprise models, no, in business models. Yeah, next one. Well, I will go so fast. So there are partners that are just consumers. There are partners that are generators, like we said, we saw in the other presentations. And there are partners that can generate and consume energy as well. So this is more or less the figures. Next. And I would like to emphasize this slide. So we are talking about photovoltaic solar energy. We are talking about sharing energy, but we're not just talking about photovoltaic. It can be, there are, in an energy community, could be more services. We are starting with photovoltaic because it's easier and this is what the profit goes faster. But we are thinking about all these services. Now it's photovoltaic. We are moving on one and on this, but we are also trying to establish a sustainable mobility, so a car sharing service. So let's go to photovoltaic solar energy with the details for that. And how are we doing that? Some basics. For being a partner of this community, you need to pay just 100 euros. That's it. And it can be returnable. So everybody can go in and then you're a partner. But then you can decide what services do you want. No? If you're talking about the photovoltaic, so the energy sharing by photovoltaic systems, you need to pay more or less. It depends on what amount of energy you want. That's it. It's like buying energy from the grid, but now you are more or less buying energy from the energy community. It's not buying because this is not commercial status, okay? Well, how we made it. So 90% of, well, who finance that? 90% is going from a bank. It's coming from a bank. This is an important thing. Then the enterprises are not paying from the investment directly. How we pay this credit? It depends on the monthly energy consumption that we have. More thing, everything is monitored, and we will have a billing system, and the surplus we will see. We thought that the surplus that Francisco told us before, so can be compensated or can be sold. So in our model, it's supposed to be sold, but we will see because it changes so quickly, and maybe we will change our mind. The energy costs, the last one. So we are calculating that the first year we will pay 11 cents for kilowatt. So after 5 years, it will decrease until 3. So it's a lot of savings. Maybe the first 5 years, we are not saving a lot. Spain, more or less the price, the average price nowadays, it's 12, 13, it means per kilowatt for business. So it means that since the first day, every company is saving money. This is more or less the highlight, okay? Let's go. And I think that I will go fast with that because it's a briefing. Yeah, let's go to the next one. And look, this is the model. Yeah, it explains a lot. So, but mostly it explains how complex is a shared energy system here in Spain. It seems more complex than it is, in fact. But I must say, every company will have to buy energy from the grid, but also every company, every partner will pay another bill to the energy community. Yeah? So instead of having one bill, you will have 2 bills, but the amount of these 2 bills will be less than the first one. Okay. One point. So the owner of all the photovoltaic systems is the energy community, not the partners. In the end, the partners are just, they can be in, they can be out for 1 year, from 2, from 1 month. So it's like let's say, I'm always used to say it's like the Netflix of photovoltaic energy. No, so you can be in, you can be out, and you are just paying for more or less what you use. Next one. So I will go fast with that. I would say, what are we doing now? Just we're building, we're almost built, it's almost built 1 megawatt in 10 roofs of different industries. It means more or less the production is 1.5 million, 1.5 gigawatts a year. Yeah, it's quite big, and this is more or less the approximately amount of 400 households. This is the phase 1 of the project. It's integrated just in Buffalo. We are already thinking on the phase 2. It's quite complicated. I'm just trying to say all the 10 installations works like one together. All the sharing percentages are the same for each one. So in the end, it's like big one working through the network. All the power is going directly to the public network, and then the public regulator is just explaining to the commercial how this energy is going to the bills. Okay. What more? We more or less you are estimating that all the energy, more or less 82% of the energy, will be directly self-consumed. Okay, next one. I will see some of these photographs. Yeah, next one, because this is the phase 2, the objectives, and this is more or less what we are doing now. Okay, more or less this installation, you can see the 6, they are different. And next one. Yeah. And you can see this is one of the industrial areas, and the last photo. This is an important point. This is how we connect our installations to the grid. Okay, this is different than when you use photovoltaic systems in your own house. So we are putting all the energy through these protection systems. Okay, and I think that's nothing more. So that of ongoing services, and yeah, so I think I'm out of time. So more or less, so we are pioneers because this is a model that we are sharing to other places, also in Europe last year. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Giuseppe. And yeah, congratulations on all of your awards. And thanks for sharing that story with us. So that we had some really interesting presentations, and now we're going to move to the Q&A section of the webinar.